What is it, people? It's Anno Productions, and the title basically says everything you need to know here. Now, before we begin, just to clarify, yes, I'm still going to be reviewing the box set Ironhide fairly soon. That is depending on how much time your definition of soon may be. And I decided, since I got these well as these other bangers of toys, why not make another double review? This time on the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beasts Core Class Arcee and Terrorcon Freezer. And now let's jump straight into this review, starting with Arcee. Painting and sculpting on Arcee, for how tiny of a figure she is, there is actually quite a lot of detail packed in such a really little package. And if you couldn't already tell, yes, this is in fact a faux chest piece, which is supposed to be the front of the motorcycle, and from what I can recall, most of these, if not all of these Rise of the Beast toys are based on their control art, which in pretty much every case varies a lot compared to their final designs. For example, take Mirage and Scourge. And if you've seen literally anybody else's review on this toy, you would know that the back kibble is absolutely atrocious, with the front of the motorcycle hanging off her rear, and the motorcycle wheel, which is packed separately in a little paper bag in the box. And the split wheel on the back of her legs, I'm not too fond of, but knowing that the purpose they serve in robot mode, I can understand why they engineered the toy this way. And as far as proportions go, I feel like her shoulders sit just a little too low and far out for a more slim character as Arcee. And I am holding out hope, like various other Transformers toy reviewers, that Arcee eventually gets a deluxe figure, because on its own, this core class Arcee doesn't quite do her design justice, but for what it is, this figure is actually pretty good. Now, as far as accessories goes, she comes with only one handgun, unlike the two that she used in the movie, which as per usual plugs into this 3mm port in either hand. Honestly, the handgun looks okay. It could have definitely used a little bit of silver paint over the black, but considering the budget they probably had, I can understand. I mean, this is a very affordable toy after all. And since there isn't much else to talk about in robot mode, let's cover the articulation. So there's a ball joint at the head with a bit of a limited range of movement. The head can rotate only about that far. She can look up and down, and just a faint ghost of a head pivot. Ball joint at the shoulder, which allows the arm to rotate a full 360. The arms can move out, and you can utilize a transformation hinge to get her arm to move all the way up. Ball joint at the elbow, which acts as both an elbow swivel and an elbow bend. Due to the transformation, there's a waist swivel. Ball joint at the leg, which allows the leg to move forward really far. The leg can move back pretty far, and the legs can move all the way out. There isn't a thigh swivel, but you can simulate one with a ball joint at the hip, bend at the knee, and that's it. So the articulation on Arcee, for how small of a figure she is, she can actually pull off some decently dynamic poses, and even... Okay, cut that out. And yes, she can balance on one leg if you use the wheel's transformation hinge, which you can also recreate the chase scene with Battle Trap if you have the Rise of the Beast Jungle Mission Wheeljack. Of course, it isn't Figma levels of articulation, far from it, but for how little of a figure this is, the articulation is really, really good. And now it's transformation time! I don't think I even need to describe how simple that was. But anyway, the Ducati 916 motorcycle mode is mostly pretty good. Of course, it isn't 100% perfect, but I'd say it's a fairly good recreation of the Ducati motorcycle they used in the movie. Although I am genuinely curious where the pink in her robot mode comes from in the movie, because the motorcycle doesn't actually have any pink at all, and it's just red and white with no pink in sight. On contrary to many people's opinions on YouTube, I don't think the hands in the back are really too much of an eyesore. Now, a feature that I do quite appreciate in this bike mode is that the front wheel can actually turn, since it was packaged separately, and it just plugs in via a 3mm port, so she can actually pull off a really good turn. The one minorly annoying thing is that the bike can't stand up on its own without the use of weapon storage, which the blaster slides into the bottom, which helps the bike stand up. So if you lose that thing, good luck standing her up in bike mode. But don't worry too much, it's actually possible. And if you can get her to stand upright in bike mode, if she doesn't topple over, Arcee can actually roll kind of okay, even though the back wheel doesn't really roll as freely as the front. And now let's get her back into robot mode and continue on with the review. Now it's time for size comparisons, and Arcee is pretty small, but honestly not quite small enough. But then again, this line has never fully been about scale accuracy. Here's Studio Series Rise of the Beast Arcee compared next to the Figma Kyoko Sakura and Sayaka Miki, Figma Saber 2.0, Studio Series Dark of the Moon Shockwave, SH Monster Arts Biogoji, MPM Barricade, New Age Mista, my last review the box set Optimus Prime, Core Clash Megatron, the other Studio Series Arcee, and one she hasn't been inside in a while, Rise of the Beast Wheeljack. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Pablo. Happy now? Now I'm going to be saving the boxes and final thoughts for later, so now let's move on to one of Scourge's little mini-con pets, Freezer. The painting and sculpting on Freezer is actually really good. One thing I will say right off the gate is that there's a lot more sculpted detail on this guy, and the paint really does help show that off. In all seriousness, the painted rust detail looks really good and miles better than the Studio Series Dark of the Moon Megatron and Revenge of the Fallen Grindor, especially with the color choices for it, like a matte gray and the more glossy bronze makes it look very well done. And that face is as terrifying as ever, even though this guy didn't do crap in this movie outside being intimidating to Noah and Elena, and even Mirage, who apparently has arachnophobia, which makes almost no sense coming from a Cybertronian. And I'm not sure if this is an issue with my particular copy of this guy, but his face really likes to fall off, and... is it just me? Or am I getting serious Revenge of the Fallen and Five Nights at Freddy's 3 Springtraps vibes here?
Are you the Transformers William Afton?
Now since this guy doesn't come with any accessories, let's talk about the articulation. So there's a ball joint at the head with a much more expressive range of movement. You can look side to side, you can look up, and if you utilize the neck joint, you can look up all the way, and down not too far. And just like the Fallen, he has unlimited head tilt. All of the arms are on ball joints, which allows them to rotate the full 360. The arms can move out that far. Ball joint at the elbow, which acts as both an elbow swivel and a bend. Due to the way he transforms, there's no waist swivel. The legs are on ball joints, which allows the legs to move forward that far, back pretty far. Splits. Unfortunately, there's no knee bend up here, but there is a ball joint at the second knee, which can also act as a swivel. Ball joint at the foot, which allows the foot to move up and down. Swivel. And just like Studio Series Sideways, there's almost no ankle tilt. Supposability on Freezer, just like Arcee, is limited, but having some advantages over Arcee, even though the ball joints at the shoulders are a little too loose for my liking. But he still has a decent range of movement for what little he has, and overall, a decently fun figure to pose. Now before we get into the alternate modes, just to clarify, this guy has 4 alternate modes, but I'm only going to show off 2 because one of them you need Scourge for, who I do not own yet, so I'm going to show off the other 2. Anyways, transformation time! And the Battle Master mode is pretty cool, but a very chunky gun, I'll say. I'll try and keep this short and sweet, but the gun mode is a really cool idea, and the execution was pulled off rather well. However, I feel like the back half is a little too large, but then again, where else are the arms and legs gonna go? And yes, this guy can be held by any figure with a 5mm port in their hands, which does look comically oversized, but I'd still say it's a really cool gimmick. Now, transformation number 2. And the mortar mode is also really cool. This is my personal favorite mode because, well, it's a robot mortarkin, and how cool is that? But I will fully admit those legs at the back don't look the greatest, but with the adjustability of the arms being the legs of the mortar, it is fully adjustable, and if you wanted to, you can man Freezer up with another core figure if you have one. And now let's get him back into robot mode and move on to rapid fire size comparisons. Here's core Freezer compared next to Kyoko and Sayaka, Saber, Shockwave, Biogoji, Barricade, Mista, Prime, Megatron, Arcee, Jackie, and Arcee. Now as far as the boxes go, you get the hollow window with some character art of Arcee and or Freezer. On the side you get an image of either character and of course authentic Transformers. On the other side, Studio Series of 5 languages of core class. On the top, Transformers Rise of the Beasts. On the bottom, use this link some barcodes. And on the back, you get product images with the figure, how many steps it takes to convert, officially licensed as for product, and some closing thoughts on the Studio Series Rise of the Beasts, Arcee, and Freezer. They're both very fun desk toys and also very enjoyable to flick back and forth between modes. Of course, they are small, but they are also very affordable too. And speaking of which, where can you purchase your copies and the cash to drop? I got these in my local Target, which I got for an absolute bargain of $6 a pop, which I'd say if you can find them for that much, then that is a total steal. But of course, they are also being sold online, which on Amazon, they're nearly twice that price, which I will let you determine whether they're worth it or not. But hey, if you can find them for $6, then yeah, I'd say these are worth a pickup. But again, I hope that Arcee eventually gets a deluxe figure sometime, but for now, I will have this core class. Or these core classes, rather. So that officially concludes my double review on the Transformers Studio Series core class, Rise of the Beasts, Arcee, and Freezer. And as always, we'll see you all in the next video. Peace out!